Hello everyone, welcome back. This lesson will be focusing on fractions and percentages. Converting fractions to percentages and percentages to fractions. Lesson outline. We're going to review finding equivalent fractions. We're going to write fractions as percentages, and we're going to write percentages as fractions. I'm going to give a few real-world examples as well, and I hope this will help you to not be afraid when you see percentages. Now, would you say that the two fractions represented by the models are equivalent? Just take a look at it. All right. Fractions are considered equivalent when they have the same value, even when their numerators, which is the top number, and the denominators, which are the bottom numbers, are different. Think of a number that can be multiplied or divided to both the numerator and the denominator of the fraction first. If the resulting fraction matches the second fraction, they're equivalent. So, since the resulting fraction matches the second fractions, it means that the 2 6 and 4 12s are equivalent fractions. So, the denominator, that is the amount of sectors or parts the circle is divided into, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the numerator is the shaded portion. So that's 2 over 6, right? Do the same for the second graph or picture or pie chart. And then if you multiply the 6 by 2, you get 12. And what you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. So the 2 over 6 is also or can be made to be equivalent to 4 over 12 by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 2. If you have any questions, please comment. I will respond. So, to recall, to find equivalent fractions, you multiply or divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So if you look at this, 2 over 8, if you multiply 2 over 8 by 2, both the numerator and the denominator by 2, you get 4 over 16, right? If you divide 2 and 8 by 2, you get 1/4 or a quarter, okay? And you know a quarter obviously is equivalent to 4 over 16, right? Because 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 16 is 4. Let me show you, because maybe you don't see what I'm saying. So you got 4 into 4, 1, 4 into 16, 4. So a quarter and a quarter, same thing, equivalence. Now, any fraction can be written as a percentage by finding its equivalent that has a denominator of 100. Please bear that in mind. Percentage means the percent. Percent. Think of it. Percent. So per means out of, right? And the percentages mean cent, right? So percent out of cent, right? So percent per 100, the amount in each 100. Writing fractions as percentages. A quarter, right? You split the squares to form 100 squares. Count the numbers of the shaded part, and then you write the value of the numerator followed by the percentage symbol. Cool. Because remember, it's out of 100%. It's out of 100. Right? So 25% is 25 divided by 100. Cool. Another way to look at this, it's without any form of pie chart. Okay. Now, 2/5, we're going to change this fraction to percentages. So 2/5 to percentage. Right? What we're going to do, we're going to get the denominator, which is a 5, to equal the 100. Right? So in order to get the 5 to equal to 100, you got to multiply by 20. Oh, you're going to multiply by 20. So 5 times 20 is 100. And what you do to the bottom, which is the denominator, you got to do it to the top. So you're going to multiply the top by 20. So 20 times 2 is 40. And 20 times 5 is 100. So now it's 40 over 100, which is 40%. So that would be 40%. So 2/5 to percentage is 40%. Remember, you want to change or get the denominator to equal to 100. And what you do to the denominator, you got to do to the top, which is the numerator. That's how we end up with that number. Okay? Okay, let's try another example. All right, 4 over 25. We want to change this to percentage. Okay? So we want to make the denominator to equal 100. In order to do that, you got to multiply the denominator by 4 and multiply the numerator by 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, and we already know 25 times 4 is 100. This equals 16%. Okay? Now let's move on to another problem. All right? So sometimes we can't multiply directly to get 100. Right? So let's see, 3 over 8. How would you change that to um to a percentage, right? So we're trying to do this. Now, what we need to find out is what do you multiply 8 by in order to get 100? Cool? So I don't have enough space, so let me erase this. Okay, keep in mind that we're trying to get 100, right? Now what we'll do is divide. And we're trying to see what we can multiply 8 by to get 100. So I'm going to do long division the way that I know how to do it, or I learned how to do it. If y'all can do long division a different way, that's fine. Alright, now all I did was 8 into 10, one time. 8 ones 8, right? Subtract 10, subtract 8, 2, bring down this 0. 8 into 20, 2, 8 twos 16, subtract, and this is a 4, right? Now you put a decimal right here, right? Now when you put a decimal there, you gotta put a 0 down here. So 8 into 40, right, is 5. 8 5 is 40, and it cancels out. Hold on. Let's redo this so that I can write it not this big. Let me see. All right. Okay. Let's do this again. Alright, let's do this again. So 3 3 over 8. Okay, we want the denominator. We want to know what we can multiply the denominator by in order to get 100, right? This is, I will put it right here. So in order to find that, what I do is divide. Alright, okay. What I do is divide. So let's do it over this side. So 8, 100. So 8 into 10, 1. 8 ones 8. Take away. 10 subtract 8 is 2, right? Bring down this 0. 8 into 20, 2 times. 8 2, 16, right? Subtract. Then you 20 take away 16, you know you leave with 4, right? Now, this is a remainder. So what happens is that you put a decimal. You put a decimal. I'm trying to put a decimal right there. Not working. So that's supposed to be a decimal. So when you put a decimal, you have to add a 0, right? So 8 into 40, 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40, and then it cancels out, right? 0, 0. So the answer is 12.5. So if you multiply 8 by 12.5, 12.5 is going to equal 100. And what you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. So multiply it by 12.5, right? So when you multiply 3 by 3 times 12.5, so y'all have to know how to multiply by decimals, right? The answer is going to be 37.5. 37.5 over 100, right? Which equals 37.5%. Right? So if y'all need me to show you how to multiply by decimals, I can do a video on that. Or I will do that at another time, but yes. So remember, the main focus is to get the denominator to equal 100, right? Because we're doing percentage. And then what you do to the denominator, or you got to do it to the numerator, and that's how it is. So what I think about is, what can I multiply 8 by in order to get 100? In order to get that answer, what I did was divide the 8, right, and the 100. Now let's move on to another problem. Another problem. Erase this. Let's move on to another problem. All right, what if they ask this question? 16 is what percent of 50? Now, these questions are inspired by Yay Math, okay? All right, so the question is, 16 is what percent of 50? Now, what we're gonna do? 16 divided by 50 equal, remember I want to change this to 100, yeah? So I want to change the numerator to 100. So the denominator to 100, right? Now The 50 times 2 is 100. And what you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top, right? So that's 32. So this is what? 32%. Get it? All right. There's another way where you could do this, okay? Formula, right? There's a formula. I'm going to show you. Same thing. There is a formula. All right, cool. Now, the formula, it is over off equal x over 100. So in this case, the is what? 16 over the off 50 is 50 equals x over 100, right? That's the same thing. It's just formula based. And in order to get 50, you multiply it by 2. And in order to get what you do at the bottom, you got to do at the top. So that's how you end up with 32%. Get it? Okay. Okay, now writing percentage as fractions. We've been doing that, right? All right. What we're going to do is use the highest common factor to simplify the fraction from a percentage. So 60%, you remove the symbol, right? So it's 60. Then write the number as a numerator of a fraction with a denominator of 100. So 60 divided by 100. Remember, it's percentages. This is a fraction of a 100 and can still be simplified as needed. You can write this fraction in its simplest form. How you do that? You divide, right? So there are many ways you can do this. So let's try the way that I like to do. Right, so it's 60 divided by 100. We're doing simple form, right? What I do, I normally cross out a 0. You do what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So 1 0 at the top, I cross out 1 0. 1 0 at the bottom, I cross out that 0. Now 2 can go into 6 without leaving a remainder, so that's 3 times, right? And 2 can go into 10 without leaving a remainder, 5 times, right? So it's simplified to 3 over 5, 3/5. Okay. See, this is just showing you how it's done formally. So you find the highest common factor of 60 and 100, and you divide. The highest factor would be what? 20, right? Because 20 can go into 60 without a remainder, and 20 can go into 100 without a remainder. So the answer is 3/5. Now let's chat. You went to a restaurant for breakfast, right? Your bill was $100 and you decided to leave a 20% tip. How much money will you leave on the table? So we want to find 20% of 100. So 20% can be written as what? 20 over 100. And then you multiply that by 100, right? Because that's the amount of money, right? This is the money. That's how much the food costs. So you can just cancel the 100, right? And then you end up with 20. So the money you left on the table is the 100 plus the $20 tip. So it's $120. Or you can do it another way. To get 10% of anything, you move the decimal to the left once, right? So 10% of 100 is $10, right? So 20% is you're gonna double. So 20% of the 100 will be 20. And so you end up with the $20, right? Now look at it. If the meal costs $80 and the tip is $20, how much money you left at the table? So 20% of 80, we want to find that, right? Now it's easy to use the 10% as a base. So 10% of 80, you move the decimal what? Once to the left, right? So that would be 8. So 10% of 80 is $8. Now 20% would be what? You would have to double it. So 8 plus 8 is 16. So the total left at the table is 80 plus $16, which is $96. All right, let's chat. Another example. You went to a restaurant for breakfast. Your bill was $80 and you decided to leave a tip. How much money will you leave on the table? Right. So we want 15% of 80. This should be 80. 15% of 80 right? So 15%, 15 over 100 times 80, that's 12, right? Another one way you could do it is like this, right? But you gotta simplify or break down or reduce. So 100 times 80. What I like to do, I like to cancel out zeros. 1 0 there, 1 0 there, right? Like cross multiply. So now it's 15 times 8 over 10. So it's 15 over 10 times 8, right? Now you're going to multiply 15 times 8 divided by 10, right? I don't have enough space. All right. So this is 15 times 8 is 120 over 10. Right? Now when you're dividing by tens, hundreds, whatever, you can just move your decimal place to the left. Right? So we're dividing by 10. So what we're going to do is move the decimal to one place to the left. So that's how the answer becomes $12. Right? 12.0, $12. All right. That's one way. Or you can start off with the base, as I was telling you before. To get 10% of anything, you move the decimal place to the left. So 10% of the 80 is 8, right? Then 5% would be half of the 10%, because 5 is half of 10, right? So half of the 8 is 4. And then you add the 8 plus the 4 to give you 12. So that's another way. It's in the box. Now the 12, which is the tip, $12, you're going to add it to the $80, and that's how you know how much money you leave at the table. Okay. So this is the practice. Write the following fractions with percentages. Okay. And then write the following percentages as fractions. Look at the answer key. So 3 divided by 10. 3 is the shaded portion. 10 is the amount of sections the rectangle is divided into. And then change it to fraction, percentage, you need the denominator to equals to 100. So what you do, you multiply by 10, and what you do to the bottom, you gotta do to the top. So 10 times 3 is 30, 10 times 10 is 100. So that 30 over 10, 30 over 100 is 30%. This number 2, 1 over 5, 1/5. To get the denominator to equal to 100, what you do, you multiply by 20, and what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 20 times 1 is 20, so 20 over 100, that's 20%. Percent of the fraction is 12 out of 100, right? 15% in its simplest form, 15 over 100, so 15 divided by 100. If you divide by 5, you end up with 3 over 20, okay?